This is part 2 of Solution to Loneliness is Not What You Think. This is another copyrighted edition of our video channel with Godwin as owner of this channel. Please like, comment or share this video before his internet is cut. Loneliness has been said as the deepest social problem in North America. After hearing Godwin's explanation for root cause of student loneliness, Dr. Vervaeke said it was deep. To understand anything deep often requires lots of time and explanation. Nirvana is good example, what most agree as deep or not what they can understand right away. So expecting to first fully understand and agree with Godwin's teachings before offering him assistance is not fair. Do people need to first understand and agree with teachings of Nirvana from a monk before offering help for the monk? Third reason why it is wrong to expect convincing argument before helping Godwin came from news. There was a story on the news that was aired on January 21, 2020 with over 1.7 million views on YouTube, by CH51 EBC News written in Chinese titled Living Without Dignity, 104 years old Australian professor Dr. Goodall singing his last song in life. In this video, there was a clip with Dr. David Goodall saying, "I couldn't do things. I couldn't travel. I couldn't even use public transport. Reasons he would rather die than living without quality of life he cherished." This video received 1.6 million views on Facebook as well. But Godwin lost quality of life he cherished too, no traveling and no public transport just like Dr. Goodall, because after Godwin graduated from university in 2011 until today, 13 out of 14 years the work he did to help ending student loneliness received no pay at all. Godwin fainted 4 times for kept writing without food. Did you know Godwin was humiliated in public for trying to pick out bigger eggs to buy? That was all he could afford, as university kept program he was hired to create from reaching students. So now you know helping to end student loneliness can lead to a loss of dignity and quality of life for over a decade. This should never have happened to him if he was living in a normal society. But a country with nearly 70% of students battle loneliness during school year, according to CBC, is not normal. Except Godwin could not expect it was the university or its decision-makers that kept him from getting paid for helping lonely students. Not even after his solution received support by psychologists and professors, what never happened in Canada. Not even after Dr. Ferrari signed a contract for hiring Godwin and allowing Godwin to charge students $200 each per month for being in the program Dr. Ferrari hired to create. Godwin never received $200 from each student in this program, as students could not find out about this program from university broadcast channel. His solution to student loneliness was like being suffocated by university. So why is Godwin still trying to end student loneliness? 1. Dr. Peterson agreed most people could only remember 5% to 1% of what they learned at university 10 to 15 years ago. Plus there is something called use it or lose it tendency for human memory. So Godwin knew if he stopped doing this work, he could only remember 5% or less of what he knew about loneliness solution, which is like tyranny for lonely students. So how can he let the only solution supported by psychologists and professors to disappear in Canada? 2. Harvard University astronomy chair Dr. Abraham Loeb said he prefers the maxim of Sherlock Holmes, that if you rule out the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. That was why he believes the Black Knight satellite is alien craft, because there is no better proposal on the table. By same token, if you rule out Godwin is lying by fact check with relevant professors, then it must be true his solution is the only one in Canada supported by psychologists and professors. But psychologist Dr. Dan Dolderman is correct for saying Canadians have a style of learning called cherry picking that often result in shallow understanding of what they learned. So if Godwin stopped doing what he does, the only solution supported by psychologists and professors will disappear, when people cherry pick or rearrange the puzzles he put together. So he realized why generations of wisdom masters all had to protect the path of wisdom from forces of distortion. By now, hopefully you can see Godwin has been facing a paradox and a dilemma. The paradox is people tend to assume someone who is smart enough to create the solution to loneliness would also be dumb enough to let them learn it free of charge or even take control of this solution at low cost, so they can make the lion's share of profit from his solution. Dr. Vervaeke did talk about something similar called hijacking that happens in academia, since after idea or concept was getting stolen, what it was intended to be used for may also cease to exist. So students should be given a chance to vote before Godwin gets evicted and all his stuff's in the landfill, to see if they all agree problem of loneliness be passed down again for next generation to solve? Or if they want to learn how to end loneliness epidemic in this lifetime, by learning solutions supported by psychologists and professors and become experts on this? What Godwin wants to remind people is, there is a North American saying that says, "Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me." This means unless the middleman is gone, students may never be able to gain access to loneliness solution created for them. Now the part about the dilemma Godwin is facing, with options that seem equally unfavorable. That is, on one hand Godwin does not want to continue for years protecting and developing the loneliness solution without pay, as if he deserves to be helpless and poor for what he does. But on the other hand, giving that up is no better, since Dr. Tony Tonato used to say Godwin is a prolific writer on wisdom and solution to loneliness. But Dr. Vervaeke as a cognitive science professor told Godwin that the mental state he is often on, for able to write 16 hours per day, 4 days or for weeks, on the said topics is called flow state, which is when challenge is met with interest and ability, just hard enough to be interesting. Except Godwin also knew most people lack what it takes to do the same, which is why if he stopped writing down what came to his mind, could be a loss for those who one day would need to learn it from him. So Godwin has decided perhaps it is wise if he asks for help, since recently his family told him that they could no longer afford to help him to pay $350 per month for rent, because the money that government gives him every month is not enough for rent. Otherwise Godwin will face eviction probably by February. This means his 900-page unpublished research on wisdom and loneliness in North America can never be published, since hundreds of his books that his research is based on will be going to the landfill after he got evicted. Since his research still requires a book-cited section. This is a situation he has been in since 2012, as this isn't what he can do when he cannot pay his own rent. For those who want to support Godwin, please go to GoFundMe website and type emergency eviction in the search box, and you will see his page. Please fact-check what Godwin said, like Dr. Vervaeke saying Godwin was noble for selling his winter jacket so he could keep his work going. YouTube channel John Vervaeke said you can join his Patreon for live Q&A sessions. Dr. Vervaeke knows best way to contact all professors mentioned earlier.